The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the normal kind, the office kind, where keyboards click and papers whisper. No, this silence watched. It pressed against the back of my neck as I hurried down the hallway, dust clinging to my uniform, sweat darkening my collar. I was late, and he knew it. My wife's uncle, the man who made sure everyone remembered he ran this place, stood outside the boardroom with his arms crossed. His expression carved from stone, his voice sharp enough to slice through bone. "The new CEO is waiting for his office to be cleaned. Don't embarrass me." A command, not a request. He didn't even look directly at me when he said it. He rarely did. I swallowed whatever pride I had left and nodded. The hallway light flickered once, just enough to feel like a warning. My hands were still cold from the morning, from the moment I handed my lunch to that man in the worn-out work uniform by the bus stop. He'd looked hungry, exhausted, like someone forgotten by the world. I didn't think twice. I just gave it to him. Strange how humanity always feels like an inconvenience here. I stepped into the office, mop in hand, mind locked on the rhythm of duty, obedience, survival. The air was stale, heavy with the scent of expensive cologne and arrogance. I worked fast, quiet, invisible, as I'd been trained to be. An hour later I heard the doors open. Footsteps, different ones, slow, measured, owning the space. I stepped back into the corner just as a man in a sharp charcoal suit walked past me. Clean-shaven, confident, eyes that scanned everything and missed nothing. He entered the boardroom and sat at the head of the table. My wife's uncle froze mid-sentence, his face drained. The man looked at him and asked, calmly, almost curiously, "So, what does he do here?" And his eyes drifted directly to me. The room went silent again. Only this time, I knew the silence wasn't watching me. It was waiting. I didn't understand, not at first. The man in the suit, the same jawline, the same eyes, the same faint scar across his knuckle. All I could do was stare, disbelief twisting in my gut like a blade turned slowly. An hour ago, he'd been wearing a dirty blue work shirt. Now he looked like he owned the world. But that wasn't what shook me. It was the look he gave my wife's uncle, a look I'd seen before. On my wife. Soft, measured, like recognition buried beneath caution. No, like history. My mind tried to rationalize it, but the truth was a parasite. Something old, something sharp, crawling up from the dark corners I always avoided. I stepped out quietly, unnoticed, the way they preferred me. But my thoughts weren't quiet. They screamed behind my calm exterior. Why did she never mention him? Why did he look at me like he already knew who I was? Why did my chest feel like someone had locked a chain around it and pulled? My phone buzzed. A message. From my wife. "Are you working late today? Don't come home early." I stared at it. A simple sentence, innocent to anyone else, but suddenly every letter felt like a crack in my ribs. Don't come home early. Don't see something you shouldn't. Don't know something you weren't meant to know. Something inside me shifted. Cold, clear. The silence wasn't just waiting, it was warning. I moved through the next days like a ghost, quiet at work, polite at home, unnoticed everywhere. But inside, I was unraveling threads. Threads my wife thought she'd tied neatly behind my back. Phone bills, location history, deleted messages recovered with third-party apps, a name that appeared too often to be coincidence, Arif. The new CEO, the man I fed on the street, the man who looked at me with familiarity wrapped in something colder. At night, my wife smiled too brightly, touched my arm too gently, laughed at nothing, pretending, always pretending. Her perfume lingered longer when she went to see her sister. Her phone turned face down more often. Her eyes flickered every time his name came up on the news. I watched everything and said nothing. The truth was building, slow, heavy, undeniable. A storm forming behind my ribs. But I didn't confront her, didn't scream, didn't accuse. I simply collected evidence, patterns, behavior, even the smallest things, like the way she said goodnight with her back turned, felt like clues. Everything was a clue. Everything pointed to a betrayal that started long before I noticed. And the worst part? She was good at lying. But I was better at listening. The DNA results came in a white envelope. I let it sit on the kitchen table for 10 minutes. Not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to savor the stillness before the world shifted. When I opened it, the air felt colder. One sentence, one fact, one truth that hollowed out everything inside me. The child wasn't mine. I read it twice. A third time. My heartbeat didn't even change. I walked into the living room, the paper folded neatly between my fingers. She was there, hair tied back, pretending to read, pretending to breathe normally. I placed the envelope on the table. She looked at it, looked at me, her lips parted. "What's that?" Her voice trembled. Mine didn't. "You tell me." She opened it, her face collapsed, shoulders shaking, breath breaking into shards. I watched her fall apart without blinking, almost peacefully. She tried explaining, begging, crying. I listened, like I was listening to rain against a window, distant, meaningless. Finally, she whispered his name, Arif. And there it was, truth, rotten and complete. I leaned forward. "He asked about me, you know." Her breath caught. Terror, genuine terror. Good. I told her how he looked at me in the boardroom, how her uncle nearly choked when he saw him, how he pretended not to know me but his eyes betrayed him. She covered her mouth. "You're not going to tell him, are you?" I smiled, not with my lips, with my silence. I packed while she cried on the floor, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet breaking, like a chair leg splintering under weight. I didn't touch her, didn't comfort her, didn't look back. At the door, I paused just long enough to feel nothing, no anger, no sadness, just clarity. Cold, clean, absolute. "You didn't just lose me," I said softly. "You exposed yourself to the one man you shouldn't have deceived." Her eyes widened. But I was already gone, walking down the hallway, breathing freely for the first time, leaving behind a woman who had mistaken my silence for weakness. The truth? My silence was the trap, and she finally stepped into it. I didn't need revenge. The truth was enough to destroy her. And destruction, I learned, is quiet.